Hey, what's up, guys? Long time no talk. Welcome to TNC 382, the Neutral Corner, episode 382 on this Thursday, September 11th, 2025. 9/11. What a day, huh? Get in on the chat, and phone lines are open. We have a lot to discuss. And we have a lot of boxing this weekend, which is good. A lot of people obviously are focused on the fight in Las Vegas, the fight card in Vegas, but don't forget, we got one in Japan too. That's a really good fight. So I'm excited that I was able to find some time to jump on and do a show and talk about some boxing. I think that well, I know I certainly can use a little bit of an escape right now and have something fun and positive to talk about. And look, guys, it's September 11th. This is a solemn day across the world, but obviously particularly here in America, for especially for patriotic Americans. It's been 24 years since the attacks on 9/11, 2001. And so this is always a somber day, but for me personally, it's a difficult time on top of that because my brother's birthday is this month. My brother's birthday is coming up. So I'm already, tense because of 9/11, and it's always in my thoughts. I had coworkers at the company I worked at the time that were training up in New York at the World Trade Center, and we lost three people that were part of our department. So these are people that I worked with that were, they weren't like close friends, but they were friends. They were people I talked to and had lunch with sometimes, and even hung out with after work and had a beer, sometimes. And I was just starting out my career in the professional world when all that happened. I was 22. I was just getting started. So for those of us who are old enough to remember that day, we're still affected by it. It's something we think about, right, every year. But then on top of that, my brother Anthony, who I lost a few years ago, his birthday is in September. So it's always just a heavy time for me, and it's a time where I could be a little ornery, I could be a little cranky, admittedly, because I'm a little depressed. So if I've been a little snappy on social media, I apologize. With all the craziness going on in the world right now, and in particular here in America, these last few weeks, wow, it's just been a really, really tense, tough time for a lot of us. So, and then me, personally as well. And so I bring all this up to say, well, a couple things. One, I hope that my show today can provide, and we're not going to talk politics, okay? I hope we can provide an escape from all of that for you guys. For myself, I need, I need it. It's therapeutic, and it helps me feel better. And we can be entertained. We can share our opinions on these fights and some other things. We'll cover some news and notes, maybe have a little fun, hopefully laugh a couple times. That's what I hope I can bring to you guys. And I really, really hope that the fights this weekend do that, just in general for fight fans. I hope that the fights deliver. I hope we get some good action and, fight at the highest skill level. We've got some pound for pound guys fighting this weekend. And on paper, the matchup in Vegas is the biggest fight of the year. I don't necessarily quite see it that way. I'll talk about why, but I know a lot of you are super excited, which is great. I hope it delivers, man. I just hope we have a great weekend of fights and we can kind of escape from some of the craziness going on in the world and just kind of enjoy ourselves a little bit. And we can talk here about the sport that we all love, right? We're all degenerate, diehard fans. Also, I mentioned this to say, guys, uh, whatever you're going through, and we all go through different things at different times in our lives. I mean, some things are more communal experiences, things we all kind of share, like 9/11. We're all kind of thinking about that right now, right? But then there's like personal things, like I mentioned, my brother, and what my family goes through every year around this time. I think, God, what would he think about like my accomplishments in recent years, and this house I've built for my family, and his two nieces who he never met, and he should, crazy Uncle Anthony should be here for his birthday, having a beer and making my little girls laugh and giggle and playing with them and stuff. I think about that every year. So whatever you're going through, whatever you're thinking about, if it's got you down, you're a little depressed, or maybe you're just super stressed out, whatever, I want you to understand that those feelings are not unique. As much as it may feel unique to you, and because we get wrapped up in our own little world, our own little bubble, and it feels like, man, no one's going through exactly what I'm going through. I promise you, in a world of billions, literally billions of people, there are not only some people going through what you're going through, there are literally billions of people going through what you're going through. Okay. So always remember that what you're feeling isn't unique. You're not alone, and it will pass. It will get better with time. And I'm telling you right now, guys, it's good sometimes just to talk about it and do something that you enjoy doing, be it working out, doing a boxing podcast, grilling out, whatever you enjoy doing, man, hiking, whatever. Do something that takes the edge off, makes you feel a little better. And I promise you, it will pass. Okay. So with all that being said, I want to leave that aside now, and I want to talk boxing, and I want to have fun today. So real quick, some super chats. We have some awesome super chats. Oh, this is great. Aaron Gortman. Thank you so much, Aaron. I know you've always been a big supporter of the show, brother. Thank you so much. He says, yo, Mike, perfect day here in Bargar. 2 questions. What could Bud possibly bring strategy-wise that Canelo has never seen before? Fantastic question, bro. Number 2, do you let your girls watch boxing with you? I'll skip real quick to number 2. The girls love boxing, bro. Particularly my oldest. My youngest is still, Josie, is still a little too young to really understand what's going on. She's only she's not even 2 years old yet, right? She's 1 and change. But she will watch it, and now she's starting to mimic the movements, right? She's doing like punching. But my oldest, Jackie, who's not even 3 yet, she's 2 and change, but she's talking like crazy. Her vocabulary is probably already better than Dad's. The bar is not too high there, but she's probably already there. But she will watch it with me. And obviously I'm not watching fights live with her because they're on at midnight. She's asleep. But like sometimes a morning fight will come on, or one of the Riyadh cards or something, and she'll watch it with me. And she's seen Daddy train, and she's like, Daddy's going to go box, when I'm heading to the gym. And then when I get home from the gym, she goes, Daddy stinky, and she knows I have to go take a shower. She calls it a bath, but shower. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. And I definitely plan to take them to the gym one day. I mean, Jackie, my oldest, already asks about going to the gym with Daddy. I definitely want to do that one day and just teach them enough to be dangerous, and get them into different martial arts, not just boxing. If they want to try kickboxing, wrestling, whatever, I want to get them trained in a few different martial arts if possible. So yes, I absolutely will let them watch boxing. And so back to your first question, though. We will talk about that. I promise you, brother. We'll talk about it when we get to that preview portion of the show. But you guys know, most of you have been following me for years. You know how I feel about this fight. I'm picking Bud by points, and I might look like a complete moron Sunday. It wouldn't be the first time. It won't be the last, but I'm sticking with that pick. I've felt that way the whole time. And I have reasons for saying that. So I'll get into those reasons, and I promise I will answer your question, my man. Another amazing super chat from my brother, Chris. Chris, you've always been a great supporter of mine and in the show, man. I thank you so much, brother. I really, really do, bro. He says, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. Yes, sir. And to hell with all those who support violence against people based on not liking their opinions. Here. I completely agree with that. Listen, we're supposed to have freedom of speech in this country. I'm not going to go down a political rabbit hole and all that stuff. I'll save that for X, because I think that space is good for that. But, we're supposed to be allowed to express opinions and ideals, and we should have the freedom to do that without being attacked for it. Believe it or not, guys, just doing a boxing podcast, I've had my safety threatened by people who didn't like my opinions just on boxing. I've had people send me death threats on DMs and stuff like that. I've had people try to dox me and get me fired from jobs and stuff because they didn't like my opinions. I mean, this shit has to stop. it just, you know, and I'm not at all trying to compare my situation to what happened to the Kirk family. That's next level horrible. I'm just saying, if me, lowly boxing podcaster, can get the crap that I've gotten, I can't imagine what somebody like Charlie went through pretty much on a daily basis. Can't even imagine. So this stuff has to stop. We need to be able to express opinions and ideas without fearing for our safety. Like, that's just crazy. Okay, let's move on. Thank you again, Aaron and Chris, for your super chats. You guys are freaking awesome, man. All right, before I get into the preview of this weekend's fights, and I promise you guys we'll do a full preview. And again, phone lines are open if you want to call in. I understand it's difficult for people to talk right now. You may not feel like talking today. That's cool. Let me do the talking. All right. And you guys could just hang out in the chat. But if you do want to call in, phone lines are open. Okay, so 2 exhibitions recently got signed, right? We have some news recently, but it's mostly about exhibition fights, not real fights. And I just wanted to briefly talk about these. Obviously, I'm talking about Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul. That's going to be in November here in Atlanta, where I live now. That will be on regular Netflix, no pay-per-view. And I'm 50-50 on if I want to cover that for Ring Magazine. I've talked to Doug Fisher about it briefly, and I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. I'll probably go. But as of now, 50-50. And then also, of course, I think it was announced last week, Mike Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather. So the response to these announcements was kind of different. Some of it was similar, but some of it was different. It kind of surprised me. I want to give my thoughts on how these 2 exhibition matches, because I see them as being completely different things. And by the way, I don't think Tyson Mayweather has a location or a date yet. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I don't even think they have like an official venue yet, but they just announced that it's coming. So here are my thoughts on these 2 matchups. Okay. The first major difference is that Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul are active fighters. And in the case of Gervonta Davis, this is a guy who has held world championship belts. I think he still technically has a piece of one of the belts. I believe so. I can't even keep up with all these belts. And I don't know. I think he still has one. Anyway, he also has unfinished business with Lamont Roach, right? It was earlier this year. A lot of people, myself included, thought that he lost to Lamont Roach, not just in terms of rounds, but there was a round there where there was a clear knockdown missed. And Gervonta Davis's team broke the rules by entering the ring and working on him in the middle of a round where the ref had not called timeout. So that was grounds for disqualification. So I thought Davis lost that fight multiple times, but he gets away with a draw. He has massive unfinished business there. And he goes and takes this fight with Jake Paul in the middle of all that. Meanwhile, Tank has been on pound for pound list. He's never been on mine, but he's been on pound for pound list. Ring Magazine had him rated on the pound for pound list for a while. And I was one of the guys on the Ring ratings committee that was vehemently against that and would tell everyone. And they're like, oh, Mike, you're just a Tank hater. Not everyone said that. Maybe a couple people. But I never thought he warranted that with his achievements. Potential's there. Potential is there. But the achievements, no. So anyway, I mention all that because in the midst of all this unfinished business with Lamont Roach, the fact that he's never fought the top challenger in any division, he doesn't unify belts. He's never cleaned out a weight class. He bounces around and fights for Reggie belts, WBA regular belts. We call them Reggie belts. And in the midst of all that, he takes this exhibition match with Jake Paul. Now, I understand this will expand his audience because Gervonta Davis, as popular as he is, it is with a niche audience. In the mainstream public, the casual sports fans, they have no idea who he is. Tank Davis can walk down the street, can walk through the mall in most towns in America, and most of the people would have no idea who the hell he is. His audience is a niche audience. They're very passionate. They love him, but it's a niche audience. So this is going to expand and broaden that audience. I get it, just like fighting Ryan Garcia did. But let me ask you this. The momentum he gained from that Ryan Garcia fight and that exposure to a lot more fans that Ryan Garcia brought, did they take advantage of it? Has it carried over to the pay-per-view sales for any of Tank's subsequent fights after Ryan Garcia? The answer is no. So they didn't really build anything, did they? It was kind of a one-off and they made some money. Kind of what this is. It's the same feel. So I'm not a huge fan of it. And to me, it's a very different thing than Tyson Mayweather. Now, Floyd Mayweather's last real fight was 2015. Mike Tyson's last real fight was 2005. Okay. So these guys have essentially, regardless of the exhibitions they've done and all this stuff, they've basically been retired for 10 years and 20 years. That's the last that have been in a real fight. So these guys are long retired. These are the types of guys that we've seen do exhibitions throughout boxing history. Now, I know like Muhammad Ali did a fight, like I guess it'd be technically considered Muay Thai or MMA in the midst of his career, right? While he was active. I know he did stuff like that. He also fought some of the greatest heavyweights of his era. He didn't avoid anybody and hide out and fight for regular belts, right? So if anybody had earned the right to do something like that, it was Ali. And I could bring up other examples throughout boxing history of active fighters doing stuff like that. But these are guys who were proven champions who had fought the best and went on to fight the best after the exhibitions. And then, that in and of itself is different than what Tank is doing. And then, so like Tyson Mayweather, these guys are retired. They're just having fun. This doesn't count toward the ratings. These guys aren't ranked in any of the sanctioning organizations. I wouldn't pass it to WBA. Wouldn't put it past the WBA to like rate the winner here. But in all seriousness, this is what an exhibition match is supposed to be. So I have literally zero issue with the Tyson Mayweather thing. Zero issue. Because Floyd and Tyson in their prime, they fought top names. They've carved out their legacy. They're long retired. If they want to have fun and do this, cool. My only issue is it's on pay-per-view. Now, it will sell. There are people out there who will buy it. There are people out there who will buy into the marketing, and they will really think these guys are going to try to kill each other and knock each other out. I'm here to tell you, it's an exhibition match. It's going the distance, both of these. But there are people that will be fooled and they'll buy it. Well, that's on them. You know, no one's forcing you to watch any of this stuff. The reason why I say Tyson Mayweather will sell, well, first of all, a lot of you are going to be surprised that Tyson's not going to be that much bigger than Floyd. I'm telling you right now, I've met both of these guys. Tyson's short, and he's older now, and when you get older, you shrink. I know he's on all the hormone therapy, so he's jacked, but I'm just saying height, length-wise, you are going to be very surprised. Floyd's a very little man. I mean, he's very, very little, a lot smaller than Tyson. But I think people in their mind are thinking welterweight versus heavyweight. Oh, my God. When you see these two together, the size difference won't be that huge. But anyway, the reason why this is going to sell, nostalgia. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, guys. Nostalgia is very powerful. I was trying to think of an example. And so, me and my analogies. And this is the best one I can think of. I know it's not 100% applicable, but just hear me out here. If Netflix announced that coming up this winter on Christmas Day, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were going to have a pickup game. And, one guy's Boston, one guy's LA, right? So they're going to have it on neutral ground. They're going to do it in Chicago. And the referee is going to be Michael Jordan. So you've got Larry Bird, who's from Indiana. Remember that. Magic Johnson from Michigan. So these are both Rust Belt guys playing a pickup game in Chicago. Michael Jordan is the referee. Now, Larry Bird's 68. Magic's 66. I guarantee you, if they did this, afternoon, Christmas Day, live from Chicago, Netflix, it may do Super Bowl-like ratings. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but at least tens of millions of people would watch it. Why? You guessed it, nostalgia. It's a hell of a drug. And if Larry Bird and Magic Johnson got on all the hormone therapy that Floyd Mayweather's been on forever and Tyson's been on for a while now, they got all jacked. They posted clips on Instagram of like 15-second, really highly edited clips of them looking amazing, like Tyson does. there would be people saying, yo, Larry's got it back, dude. Larry's in his prime. Magic. Look at his handles. It's still all there. I'm telling you right now, girls, hold on, guys. My girls are girls, daddy's doing a show. Daddy's doing a show. Okay. Oh, okay, baby. After the show, Dad, we can play. But right now, Daddy's talking to his friends. Okay, you want a protein bar? Okay. Okay. Go see Josie. Go see mommy. Go see mommy. Good girl. Sorry, guys. Don't you just love live shows? Okay, was not expecting that. Anyway, if they got all jacked, if Larry and Magic got all jacked, right, and you're like 6-pack abs, and all, I'm telling you, people would get so into it, it would sell. It'd do huge numbers. So that's the best example I could think of. I know it's not exactly apples to apples, but you get what I'm saying. That's why Tyson Mayweather and that sort of thing, it's happened throughout boxing history. I have zero issue with it. Am I going to buy the pay-per-view? No, I'm not watching it. If it was on free Netflix and it was on at an early time, I might put it on in the background for fun, but I'm not going to buy it. But I ain't mad at it at all. Now, the Tank Davis and Jake Paul thing, look, Jake Paul's doing his thing. I get it. I ain't mad at him. I get what they're doing over there. And to a certain extent, Gervonta Davis and his team are kind of doing the same thing. They're just doing it, obviously, at a much higher level because he's a legitimate schooled prize fighter. But I do have some issues with that one. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Bleak schedule. The Bleak schedule for, I would say, so far for the rest of the year. I mean, there's some interesting fights coming up, but there's nothing in the month of October. I think at the very end of October, there's a card, but it's pretty bleak, guys. And overall, I got to say, 2025, it's been a fairly down year. We had a really good card with the, the Bivol Beterbiev rematch that I think was in February. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was probably, for me personally, the peak of the year. There's been some interesting matchups here or there, but overall, even on the club show circuit, it's been a down year. I mean, where I live here in Atlanta, since we've moved here, there are numerous club shows every year. And one of the things I've been doing to continue my work in boxing, because I have pulled back on the media stuff because I'm just so busy with the kids and everything else I got going on. But I've done a lot of ringside commentary throughout the Southeast, these club shows around here for the live stream, because a lot of these shows have live streams now, right? Even the smallest club show. And there's 300 people watching or whatever, right? It's not like it's a huge stream, but it'll be the fighters' friends and family mostly, and a few other people that they get on their social media feeds to watch. At most, there's 500 people watching, but it's a cool little side gig. And I've been doing that stuff, and most of it is Saturday night. So my kids are in bed. I'm not working. It works for my schedule right now better than being on the beat and covering boxing. So I've been doing stuff like that. I've been doing some matchmaking stuff. Anyway, I've worked with some top name promoters you all would know, helping them find opponents around here in town that I've trained with and even sparred with. I've helped guys get career high paydays traveling to do fights around the country from here. That's been really, really cool. But this year it's been dead, just dead. There's been very few shows here, very, very few, both pro and amateur, because a lot of these amateur shows now have streams, and I've done commentary for them as well. So, man, there's just something this year. It's just a down year, man. PBC is all but dead. Top Rank is no longer on ESPN. I know there's new deals and stuff like that have been announced. We'll see how all that works out. It just feels like a down year overall, man. So, October 25th, Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman. So there's a fight that literally nobody asked for. And I'm not going to sit here and just crap all over these fights, but I'm not remotely interested in that because it's on pay-per-view. It's on Amazon Prime pay-per-view. What are these people thinking? Thurman has 2 fights this decade. Literally, Keith Thurman has 2 fights since 2019, and he's headlining a pay-per-view at a weight class that I think he's fought at once. There are so many other guys I'd rather see Sebastian Fundora fight than Keith Thurman. The fight on this card I am interested in is Oshaki Foster versus Steve Fulton. I'm interested in that fight, but it's, I mean, obviously it's a decent like side piece to the main event here. I actually like that fight better than the main event in certain ways. But again, this is a pay-per-view. Just yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm definitely not watching it live because it'll be on late. I'll be in bed, but perhaps I'll pull out the old Fire Stick and watch a replay on Sunday or something. November 8th. This is an interesting fight. Victor Ortiz versus Erickson Lubin in Texas on DAZN. Look, Erickson Lubin, is he where he was at a while ago? No, I don't think so. But just all things considered, this is a pretty interesting fight. Not a great fight, but a pretty interesting fight. Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn, the rematch in London on DAZN, November 15th. First fight back in April. Eubank won 8-4 on all three scorecards, 116, 112. Good fight, good action, made money, good domestic level fight there in England. I get why they're going right back to it. I like that they're not waiting. They're getting right back to it, 6-7 months later? So that's an interesting matchup. Again, it's not great, but it's a good matchup. It'll be a fun, atmospheric type of event, so that'll be cool. David Benavidez versus Anthony Yard and Brian Norman versus Devin Haney in Riyadh on November 22nd. I can't remember what, I don't know if they have announced a network for that yet, but I do know it's in Riyadh, so to be on early. Interesting matchups there, both of them. And, maybe that's one that I'll check out live because it'll probably be on, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast if it's over in Riyadh. None of those fights are amazing, but they're fairly interesting, good, kind of stay busy matchups, right? Those ones that I mentioned there. This is something that I talk about every year increasingly. Ring Magazine, pound for pound, top 10 fighters. You're talking 10 guys, right? They will fight a total of 18 times this year. Naoya Inoue, who fights this Sunday in Japan, will be the only one with 3 fights. So if you take him off the list, then the 9 remaining pound-for-pound fighters will fight 15 times this year. Alexander Usyk, the best fighter in the world. Terence Crawford, Dimitri Bivol. These guys, these are 3 of the top 4 fighters, 5 fighters on earth. They each will fight just once this year. And obviously, Bivol and Usyk, I mean, technically all 3 are fighting in high-profile fights because it's for undisputed championships. These guys are fighting once a year. Wow. I mean, that's a real problem. That's a real problem we have in this sport right now. And I know it's something I've talked about a lot. I'm just looking at recent fights. I'm just looking at the summer because I haven't done a lot of shows this summer. Been very busy. The girls have been out of school. They're back in school now. They go to Montessori. So they love that. It's been real good. But anyway, I'm just looking. Jai Opataya, Gilberto Ramirez are the number 1, number 2 guys at cruiserweight. They both had wins in June. Right? So that happened this summer, but they need to fight each other ASAP. Those 2 should be fighting each other because the cruiserweight division is kind of a mess right now. And I'm just looking at all these other divisions. Middleweight, it is dead. The middleweight division is dead. Janibek Alimkhanov fought once this year, and that was in Kazakhstan. He hasn't fought in the USA for 2 years. The top middleweight in the world, hasn't fought in the USA in 2 years. I don't blame them, but I'm just saying that division is dead. The number 2 guy in the division is Carlos Adames. He had 1 fight back in February on that Bivol Beterbiev card, and he got robbed, in my opinion, against Hamza Shiraz. I thought Adames won that fight, but he has nothing since. We need to see next year Alimkhanov and Adames fight each other. That's a hard fight to market. There's 0 money behind it, but at least the winner would be a legitimate lineal Ring Magazine champion. So hopefully next year we get Opataya versus Zerto. We get Alimkhanov versus Adames. At least that would brand us a true champion in those 2 divisions that are kind of dead right now. Guys, welterweight. This is the weakest welterweight division of my life. I'm 46 years old. I've been a boxing fan my whole life. Weakest welterweight division I've ever seen. Let's talk about Shakur Stevenson. He beat Zepeda back in July. That was branded as a 50-50 fight. I told you all that was going to be a one-sided kind of showcase for Stevenson. That's what happened. So that's good. But what's next? Is he ever going to get Gervonta Davis in the ring? Are we going to see that matchup? We desperately need something like that with these young American fighters. So, yeah, dude, the schedule has been pretty bleak this summer. There have been some highlights. Okay, there have been some interesting fights. There are some interesting fights on the schedule in the fall, but all in all, I just feel like this has been a down year. I really, really do, and I hate to say that. It doesn't please me to say that. Okay, before I get into the preview, we got one caller from England. I think this is Hamed. Let me jump to the phones. Hopefully this works. I did this right. Hello, Hamed. Can you hear me, brother?
Yeah.
Hamed,
I just wanted to get your thoughts. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the overall card, because I think there's a lot of fights. But what do you think about the overall card? Because I think there's about 5 or 6 fights on the whole main card.
So you're talking about Canelo Crawford, right?
Canelo Crawford.
There's a couple of interesting fights. I think the best matchup on the undercard is probably Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr. That's the one most people are talking about. Bohachuk Adams is interesting. The heavyweight fight, Ditchko versus Franklin, is interesting. To me, none of those fights are amazing. I'm not super excited about them, but overall, it's a solid, decent undercard. Keep in mind, this is not a pay-per-view. It's on regular Netflix, so all things considered, a pretty solid undercard. Ahmed, you still there?
Yeah, and also regarding the whole weekend, do you think this fight will live up to the hype? Because I don't know if it'll be actually a great fight. I keep thinking about the Mayweather Pacquiao fight, and I hope I'm wrong, but I got a feeling this fight could end up either being a dead or not a good fight.
Yeah, I'll talk about that more in a few minutes when I preview it, but I agree with you. People have to remember these are 2 counterpunchers. They're highly skilled guys, and Canelo's volume has slowed down in recent years. Crawford's going to be very cautious. He's never been a volume guy himself. This is not going to be a, Hagler-Hearns kind of fight. I would highly suggest if you're betting, bet the over. I strongly feel this is going to distance. Again, I could be wrong, but I feel this is a distance fight and it's going to be fought at a technical pace.
One second, Mike.
Ahmed, you keep going away. You there? All right, we're going to give you a 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think he dropped. Okay, we got a couple other callers real quick. Let me grab these guys, and then I'm going to preview the fight. Let me jump to 929. I think there's New York City. What's up?
Hey, Mike. How you doing, man?
Good.
All right, man. I wouldn't say I'm totally excited for this fight between Crawford and Canelo. I'm still very skeptical of what Bud's gonna do to Canelo. I know he's a very highly skilled, pound for pound fighter, no question about that. But Canelo is on a whole-time great, ascendancy, arch. Even though I feel like he has this, selection of opponents have been kind of, waning in interest, like Munguia and Berlanga, who I think was less deserving than Benavidez, which I felt that fight should have been made over this one, especially Charlo, versus Bud at 154 would have been epic. The way they were looking at each other when Crawford was beating the bloody pulp out of Spence, and he was just looking at Charlo. It was just poetic.
Yeah,
it felt like poetic justice, man. Yo, I'm here. I am the best American boxer, bar none. And people are still denigrating this man, for trying to challenge this, the boxing hierarchy that is Canelo. He is the top of the food chain in terms of, marketability, but I need to see him in other fights that, that still challenges him, because again, I'm still skeptical of how this fight turns out. I like both guys, but I feel like, this is just me. I think it's going to be a draw. I just don't like the selection of judges.
Yeah.
Tim Cheatham and Steve Weisfeld, they put out a few stinkers. I'm keeping that message consistent. If it's entertaining, you know what? I'm not going to complain about it. It was good. Marketing, as best they could, even though these guys are not the most extravagant personalities, I would say. But yeah, but let me tell you something else, Mike. Have you ever noticed how there's no announcement where the fight is going to be shown at between Murodjon Akhmadaliev and Inoue? Because I think that's a fight that's really flying under the radar this weekend. I know this fight between Canelo and Crawford, overtakes the boxing, media news cycle. But this fight is going to be really good. And I feel like Inoue is probably in for a good fight because, he has a tendency to drop his hands. And that's what makes it chaotic.
I completely agree with you. And in fact, that's something I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. But yeah, I think that fight is massively flying under the radar. I think it's the fight of the weekend. And it's a shame that people are having to struggle to find a place to watch it. That I don't think it's on any of the platforms here in America at all. Because you got to remember, Top Rank's deal with ESPN has dried up. And I know they announced something with Stars, but I don't think that starts till next year. So this fight's kind of just floating in limbo. And it's a great matchup. I think Akhmadaliev is going to give Inoue a hell of a fight.
Right. Also, another fight this weekend, I think you should be watching is Donovan versus Crocker. I don't know if you still have the zone. I know you've criticized in the past, but I'm going to give Paddy Donovan a chance. I think he's going to be great for the welterweight division. I think he's a highly skilled, welterweight fighter. I mean, the way he's just looking there, looking smooth, putting punches together and moving around the ring without even, giving up too much space. It's really a fantastic sight to see, even though, the welterweight division is, has seen its best days, I still think there's some people that need to populate that weight class, like Haney already, Brian Norman, still hasn't been proven, but I'm hoping that he pulls it out, because he really is a fantastic, fighter too, he kind of stands out. So yeah, man, that's all I got, Mike, man. I hope you have a good weekend, man.
Thank you. You too, brother. Enjoy the fights, man.
Thanks, man. Peace.
All right. We got some phone calls stacking up. I want to get to my preview real quick, guys, and then I promise I'll jump back to the phones, okay? But, like the caller mentioned, Inoue versus Murodjon Akhmadaliev, that is September 14th, this weekend, Sunday, in Japan. And I think a lot of that, for a lot of you, I should say, that fight's flying under the radar. I want to bring up, hang on one second. I'm going to bring up the Ring Magazine ratings because I want to show you guys why can't I type Ring Magazine ratings? I want to show you guys just how many fighters in his division that Inoue has fought. He's fought some top guys, and it's an impressive run. It truly is. I'll pull this up real quick, and then okay, let me share this real quick so you guys can see this. Thank you for bearing with me. But if we go here to 122 pounds, okay, and we look at the top fighters, so obviously Inoue is champion, right? He's undisputed champion, but he's already beat the number one guy right now, Marlon Topolis. He already beat him. If he wins this weekend, he will have beaten the number two guy, Murodjon Akhmadaliev, who, remember now, is a former unified title holder. He's already beat number three, Luis Neri. And all three of those are recent fights. And of course, he's beat TJ Doheny, number 7. He's beat number 8, Ramon Cardenas. And let's not forget, he annihilated Stephen Fulton, who is now rated number 4 at featherweight, 4 pounds heavier. So I think a lot of people have been kind of shitting on Inoue's recent accomplishments because his list of opponents doesn't sound impressive. And I'm not trying to suggest that 122 pounds is the most loaded division in boxing, because clearly it's not. But I would say it is among some of the more deeper divisions. It's certainly not as empty as I mentioned before. Like light heavyweight's very top heavy. Middleweight's dead. Welterweight's dead. Like I could keep going. Okay. So 122 is at least in the middle, maybe in the top half, talent-wise, in divisions. And Inoue is, if he wins this weekend, he will have beaten all three of the top guys. And you got to think about it this way too. It's not just beating the top guys, and then like, because a lot of times you'll see a champion beat a guy, and then that fighter falls in the rankings, right? And he either falls out of the top 10 or he drops. Inoue is beating these guys, and they're still in the top 3 in the division. That means that they're still holding up their level of quality even after he beats them. You don't always see that. So I think that that's very significant. And if there's any way that you can find a way to see that fight, and there will be streams, right? There will be streams out there. Make sure you do, because even if you have to catch a replay, because I think Inoue is a special fighter, but I do think Akhmadaliev is going to give him issues. I really, really do. And that's a good matchup, man. You know, I've been complaining about the level of matchups and everything this year. Well, here's a matchup that is a really, really solid one. It sucks that it's on TV. That's a whole nother problem we could get into. But yes, very good fight. Very good fight. Now, let's talk about Las Vegas. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts, and then I promise I'll jump back to the phones, okay? Real quick, the undercard. I mentioned Callum Smith versus Fernando Vargas Jr. A couple of you guys in the chat mentioned Bleak. He's on the undercard too. That's interesting. Those guys are fun to watch, right? Bleak's fun to watch. Bohachuk versus Adams, interesting fight. Ditchko versus Franklin. That can turn into an ugly, technical, kind of heavyweight type of fight. I hope it doesn't, but I'm always interested in heavyweights. Decent undercard, all things considered, for a free show. If this was pay-per-view, I'd probably complain a little bit more, but it's not. So all things considered, decent undercard. But of course, this is all about the main event. So let's talk about it. First thing I want to do, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm show you guys a poll I did on Twitter. I know, me and my polls, right? So I posted this on X, and I asked, for those of you listening on audio, I'll read it. I'll be doing a preview show for the Canelo Crawford matchup on Thursday. Join in live. In the meantime, how excited are you for this fight? And I have 4 responses. Meh, I'm not watching. A little excited, fairly excited, very excited. The results of this poll, now, there's one thing I have to mention. I only got 170 votes. Normally, when I do a poll about a really, really big fight, I get thousands of votes. So this is concerning, but I think a lot of people have been logging off of X this week because it's just been very toxic lately, which I understand. I get it. But only 170 votes, that is a little concerning. But your responses were surprising to me, and like I'm pleasantly surprised. This makes me happy. Only 5% of you said you're not watching, which is awesome. So at least 95% of you will be watching. That's great. Only 23% of you said that you're just a little excited. Over 70% of you said that you're fairly excited to very excited. That is awesome. That's the kind of response I want to see when I do a poll like this. So it's a small sample size. Like I said, only 170 votes. That's way less than I normally get. But the people that did vote, 70% of them are excited about the fight. That's freaking cool, man. So I was very pleasantly surprised with those results. Now, for me, one of the callers just mentioned he wanted to see Crawford fight Charlo, right? To me, if I have an issue with this fight and it's me nitpicking, it's that nobody asked for this fight. Die-hard boxing fans wanted to see Crawford fight Boots Ennis or maybe Charlo or somebody else in the round, 154. We wanted to see Canelo fight David Benavidez, or maybe even rematch Bivol and go for greatness and maybe try to do a light heavyweight championship or try to entice Bivol to come down to 68 before he goes back up to 75 and does the rubber match with Beterbiev, something, right? Those are the types of matchups we wanted to see. Nobody, no diehard boxing fans asked for this fight. So there's that. So while it is a big fight, and on paper, it's the biggest matchup of the year, I totally agree with that. It's also post-Mayweather. Again, Mayweather's last real fight was 2015. It's been 10 years. The best American boxer, undoubtedly, I don't think anyone would dispute this, the best American fighter is Terence Crawford, post-Mayweather. He's been the best American fighter of this era. Canelo Alvarez, you can make an argument that Juan Francisco Estrada was a better pound-for-pound fighter than Canelo. You can make that argument. You can also make an argument that at his absolute peak, Canelo was the best Mexican fighter of this generation. But either way, undoubtedly, he's the most popular Mexican fighter of this generation. He's carried the sport in North America. He's been the absolute money printing machine of the sport of this era. Top name in terms of like business, right? So you have the premier American fighter of this generation, the premier Mexican fighter of this generation. So in that sense, it's absolutely a big fight. When I look at this, though, and I look at the matchups I'd rather see these guys in, and then I look at where they're at in their careers, and then I look at, wear and tear, age, weight difference, all this stuff, I can't call this a super fight. For me, it falls just short of that distinction. When I think of a super fight, for me, okay, and this is just me, you're all allowed to have a different opinion. I think of Canelo Golovkin, the first two fights. That was a fight that built. Fans were asking for it for like 2 or 3 years. They were asking for it. Everyone in the industry could see that these were going to be the two guys, and there was going to be a crescendo, and they were eventually going to fight, and it was going to do big business. And that was a fight between a half Russian, quarter Kazakh, quarter Korean guy who started his career in Germany and then moved to Los Angeles, and a Mexican American with a dull personality, at least in English, who does no English TV shows, talk shows, any of it, in Las Vegas, and it did massive numbers. So for all that to work out, there had to be a build and there had to be a lot of anticipation for those fights, and there was. You get the controversy in the first fight, you get the rematch, which also does big numbers. Both of the fights lived up to expectations. They were very, very entertaining fights. And so that's what I think of when I think super fight. And then a little bit maybe below that, but still fights that I considered personally as a fan super fights that I was really excited about. Usyk Fury. That was for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. 2 undefeated guys. The clear top 2 heavyweights of this generation, right? At least at that time. And it's David versus Goliath, right? The size difference and all that kind of stuff. So that was a super fight in my eyes. I know in the West it wasn't, but like on a global basis and for the history and importance of the fight in terms of boxing history, I thought it was a super fight. Beterbiev Bivol, I wouldn't call it a super fight, but it was a very important fight for an undisputed championship. And it was fought at a very high level. And it was, again, 2 guys that we wanted to see fight. They were clearly the top 2 fighters in that division. So that's not quite what we're getting here. But in terms of name recognition and all the other stuff I mentioned, it's a big fight. So those are my nuanced thoughts. Now let's get into the matchup. My pick on this, since it was first talked about, I mean, this fight was probably maybe talked about a year and a half ago, maybe even longer than that. But I feel like it was talked about, it started to be talked about at least pretty heavily like last summer. It's been talked about for over a year. And when it was first being discussed, I told people that my original gut feel was Terence Crawford on points. And when I first said that, people looked at me like I was freaking crazy. The overwhelming majority of the public at that time said Canelo would win. There were even a lot of fans that were kind of poo-pooing the matchup because they thought it'd be a domination. What's interesting, the odds makers agreed with that, by the way. The odds makers had Canelo big early on. As we've gotten closer to the fight, people's attitudes have shifted. And I'm seeing a lot of pundits and podcasters and people like that still are starting to switch and pick Crawford. I've seen the odds change a little bit. Canelo's still the betting favorite, as he should be. And I say this as a guy who's picking Bud. Canelo should be the favorite. Okay. Crawford winning this will still be an upset. It's not like I'm expecting it to happen. I'm picking it as an upset special. But Canelo is and should be the favorite. But I'm seeing more and more people, like, it's becoming like the hip, cool, vogue, hipster thing to pick Crawford right now, which is making me scared about my pick. I can't lie. Max Kellerman picked Crawford. I'm like, oh no. Like, instantly when I saw Max Kellerman pick Crawford, I'm like, oh no. Okay, I'm starting to feel nervous about this pick. But I'm not going to go back. I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to still go with Bud by decision. Again, I might look like an absolute idiot Sunday. Why have I always had Bud winning this fight? I've tweeted about some of this stuff, and I took some heat for it on Twitter. For some reason, it really like upset people. Like, I can't understand it. I wish I could find the tweet and pull it up. Let me see if I can look for it real quick while I'm talking to you guys, because I might have it like in my bookmarks. No, I don't think so. Actually, I got it somewhere. Let me look for this crap real fast. I promise I won't take too long looking for it. If I can't find it, then I can't find it. But so many of you got so mad when I brought up the weight thing. Okay, here we go. You know what? I'm going to share this. I'm glad I bookmarked this because a lot of you did, because I see how you all move. I see what you all do. Check this out. So again, I'll read this for the people listening on the audio. I tweeted this last month in August. Crawford moving up to 150 from 154 to 168 to fight Canelo is a 14-pound jump, a 9.1% increase in body mass. Usyk 226 fighting Fury 281. Now that's their rematch. 55 pounds, 24% difference in body mass. So in other words, Usyk's mountain to climb was 2.5 times as large as Crawford's. Also, Fury was taller and longer than him. Meanwhile, Crawford is actually taller and longer than Canelo. Lastly, Fury was undefeated and in his prime when Usyk beat him. Now, I regret putting in his prime. What I meant to say was he was closer to his prime, but I mistyped it and I said in his prime, and maybe that's what pissed off a lot of you out there. But what I meant to say here was Fury was undefeated and closer to his prime when Usyk beat him twice. Canelo is past his best and lost decisively to the last elite fighter he faced, which was Dmitry Bivol back in 2022. Now, I noticed there's 124 bookmarks on that. Almost 1,000 likes, over 100 retweets, but over 100 bookmarks. What that means is there's a lot of those haters out there who bookmarked it, hoping that Canelo gets a third-round knockout and absolutely bulldozes Crawford so they can retweet my shit and say, look at this idiot. This didn't age well. Yeah, I know how you all move. I get it. The same people. If Crawford pulls this off, radio silence. I see how you all move. Anyway, the point I was trying to make there is I wasn't trying to diminish Crawford's accomplishment if he were to beat Canelo. The point I was trying to make is we just saw a David Goliath situation where a lot of people are like, oh, Usyk acclimated to the weight. He was a real heavyweight when he fought Fury. Some of you are so freaking naive, and I could tell you've never boxed before. It's laughable. And then suddenly also people are like, Fury was 47 years past his prime. He was 312% body fat when they fought, right? All these excuses come out. Listen, the bottom line is Usyk, yes, he had been at heavyweight for years, and he had been fighting bigger guys, and he was acclimated to fighting bigger guys. I understand that. But his natural weight and size was nowhere near that of Fury. pretty easy point if you have half a functional brain, and I realize a lot of you out there don't. I get it. I know the internet's a special place. Even though Usyk was acclimated to heavyweight and fighting bigger guys, none of them were as large and as skilled as Fury, right? So he had fought AJ twice. AJ, I would say, is a stronger guy than Fury, definitely more athletic in terms of like his one punch power, that sort of thing, like, you know, the twitchiness. I would say that Dubois, bigger, stronger than Fury and more twitchy and having that one punch power. But Fury had skills those guys didn't have, and size and length. And he outweighed Usyk by like 50 pounds. And when you're a 200-pound guy that has bulked up, yes, I know it's been 5 or 6 years of bulking up, but you're still having to bulk up to fight naturally larger men. And now you're like 220, 225, and you're still fighting a guy that's 20% heavier than you just naturally. That's just how he is. It's how he's been his whole adult life. That's a huge mountain to climb. And Usyk did it. If Usyk could do it, this is my whole point. If Usyk can do it, why can't Crawford? If Crawford is that pound for pound generational talent that many people feel he is, I've felt that way for years. If he truly is that guy, like Usyk is, Usyk pulled it off. Why can't Crawford? That was the point of my tweet. And that's been my gut feel with this fight from the jump. Now, I'm not trying to say this is a complete apples to apples comparison. It's not. There is nuance. There are differences. I understand. I understand that Fury had some long, rough fights with Wilder. He had been dropped 400 times before the fight with Usyk, right? He had ballooned up and down in weight. He had abused his body. He, loved snorting cocaine and doing all kinds of other drugs. He had used performance-enhancing drugs. He had done all kinds of stuff in and out of the ring to wear himself down. I understand that. Guess what, guys? So is Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez has never been hurt, knocked down. He's been wobbled, but he's never been hurt the way Fury has. I understand that. And he doesn't do a bunch of coke and all the other crap that Fury does in between fights and blow up in weight. He's a true professional. I'm not trying to compare him to Fury in that sense. But he took a lot of leather against Bivol. He took a lot of leather in those 2 Golovkin fights. He's taken some leather in some of those matchups. Okay, he's been fighting bigger guys, and he's taken some wear and tear on his body. And trust me, I won't go down the rabbit hole. I won't say certain things off the record that I'm kind of not privy to say. But trust me when I say Canelo has put wear and tear on his body outside of the ring in between fights. Just trust me on that. All athletes have a shelf life. They all age differently, but Father Time's undefeated. Depending on how you treat your body when you're in training and competition, and how you treat your body out of competition, that does affect your shelf life. But fighters are more than just athletes. They're also fighters. Or I should say boxers are more than just athletes. They're also fighters. And so fighters have a shelf life. And every fighter's shelf life is different. And it depends on a bunch of different things. And I'm not trying to suggest that Fury was, the absolute 100% at the pinnacle of his powers when he fought Usyk. But he was undefeated. He had never lost. And in terms of his skill set, in terms of what I saw him do in the ring against Usyk, it was on par with what he did against Wilder, Klitschko, all his fights. I didn't see him lose a step. I didn't see him slow down. His punch volume didn't change. His footwork wasn't slower. His body movements weren't slower. It's not as if you saw this real decline in the way he fought. He changed his style sometimes, and he got more crunk with it, right? Where he'd come forward, he'd throw less punches, do a little less feinting and stuff like that. But, he would revert back to those tendencies when he was in a tough fight, which he did against Usyk. But, I didn't see a big change in the way he fought. I actually thought that technically, particularly the rematch with Usyk, that was as good a Fury as I had seen in recent years. Now, let's look at Canelo. Let's pull up Canelo's resume, shall we? Let me pull up good old BoxRec, everyone's favorite. And let's look at this. I'm going to share my screen for the 400th time today. Let's go to it. All right. Canelo. Last time he fought a legit, what I would call pound for pound, elite level fighter was Dimitri Bivol over 3 years ago, right? May of 2022. How'd that fight go? Now, I know these judges had it 7 rounds to 5, which is hilarious. That's not the fight that happened. At best, Canelo won 3 rounds in that fight. At best. I love how 2020 hindsight, as the years pass, now there's people after saying, I had it a draw. I thought Canelo edged it. Are you serious? You all were shocked out of your system that night. You saw Bivol dominate Canelo. It's not that it wasn't competitive. Canelo was a pound for pound fight. He might have been ranked pound for pound number 1 at that time when they fought. And so I'm not saying it wasn't competitive. It's not like it was an ass whooping like Crawford Spence, but Bivol clearly, decisively won that fight. Since that time, I should mention just before that, at the end of 2021, 4 years ago, that's the last time Canelo stopped a top-ranked fighter, a fighter ranked like in the top 5 of a division. It's the last time he did, right? Since then, he has fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times against an ancient, basically retired Golovkin who was cashing out, John Ryder, an overrated Jermell Charlo, an overrated Jaime Munguia, a very overrated Edgar Berlanga, and William Skull. All 6 of those fights have gone the distance. In my humble opinion, a prime Canelo stops 5 out of those 6 opponents. He doesn't stop a Golovkin at any point, even an ancient, old, semi-retired Golovkin, but he stops Ryder, Charlo, Munguia, Berlanga, and Skull. A prime Canelo stops those guys, okay? And let me add to this. I have covered Canelo's career extensively. I have traveled the country covering his fights from ringside. I've been ringside for probably a dozen or so Canelo fights. California, Nevada, Texas, Florida, New York. I've been all over the country covering this guy. I lived in LA for 10 years. I was a part of the Los Angeles boxing beat, right? I was part of the boxing press out there. I was on the beat every day. And I saw Canelo at events all the time. He trained in San Diego, right down the road, basically. And he was in LA all the time for different events. So I've been up close with Canelo, not just in terms of watching him fight and train and stuff, but just in person in general, at functions, pressers, sanctioning body type stuff, right? And you can see a guy change. And in my estimation, the guy's lost a step. Now, I've been saying this for a couple years now. Just now, since the William Skull fight this summer, I noticed certain media members who refused to go there before are starting to feel like it's safe to do it now. So they're starting to say it. I love how it always goes that way. When it's safe to say it, then all the people who worry about losing their access and their job, they'll finally start to say the hard thing to say. But I've been saying it for years. You guys know that if you pay attention to the show, you follow the show. So I'm not saying Canelo shot. I'm not saying that like he's no longer a world-class fighter. Clearly, he's still a world-class operator. He still beats most guys out there. They may take him the distance, but his skill level, his experience, his craftsmanship, his professionalism, he still beats most guys. Terence Crawford's not most guys. The one X factor going into this fight that very few people are talking about. I mentioned Canelo's 6 fights over the last few years. He's fought twice a year, right? And I think there was a calendar year at one point where he fought 3 times. I want to say it was like right after COVID. Yeah, 2021. He fought 3 times that year. And then since then, he's been a twice-a-year fighter, okay? Over that same span, Terence Crawford has fought 1 time a year since 2019. So for the 6th straight year, Crawford has fought just once. Now, technically in human years, Crawford is a few years older. Because that's another thing people responded to me at X. Crawford's older. I get it. I can do math. I get it. In terms of boxing years, my personal gut feel on this is that Canelo's older. But Canelo has been busier. He has been more active. He has got more rounds in. I tweeted about that as well. I can't remember the exact numbers. But I want to say, let me see if I can find it, because I put numbers to it in a post. And if I can find it real quick, I want to give you guys these numbers. Yeah, right here. Okay. So since 2019, Crawford has boxed a total of 41 rounds compared to 118 for Canelo. That's huge. But over the last 2 years, this is where it's real big. Over the last 2 years, Bud has boxed 12 rounds. That was the Madrimov fight, compared to 48 for Canelo. 48 rounds compared to 12 over the last 2 years. That's a big X factor. I personally feel that if Crawford comes up short in this fight, it will be more so due to his inactivity than the size difference. That's my personal gut feel on it. Now, if this fight happened 3-4 years ago, I'd have a totally different opinion on it. But because it's happening now, I hope there's no fuckery on the scorecards. I hope there's no controversy. If all things being even, if everything is the way it should be in terms of the ring officials doing their job properly, I still like Terence Crawford to edge this on the cards. I don't think this is going to be a very exciting fight. I think it'll be fought at a technical pace. Canelo, his punch volume has slowed a lot in recent years. He's always had stamina issues late in fights. Crawford's not the type of guy to throw a lot of punches. He's not a volume guy. So I see a technical, guys, it's 2 counter punchers. I see it going the distance. I personally feel if Crawford stays disciplined and uses his length and his speed advantage and movement and his switch hitting style, his accuracy, all those things, I think he can pull this off. And I'm sticking with that pick. I'm not telling you guys, this is not gambling advice. If I'm going to give gambling advice personally, at least the last time I looked at the odds, the real value bet on this is a draw. Because I can see if Crawford wins 7 rounds of this fight, it'll be a draw. If Crawford wins 8 rounds, it still might be a draw. You know, they almost robbed Dimitri Bivol, and he soundly beat Canelo. So Crawford, if Crawford just edges it, you might see a draw so that we get a rematch next year, Cinco de Mayo. Because let's face it, in terms of name recognition, this is still the biggest fight for either one of these guys. It is. So you could see something like that. Never forget, boxing is a business, right? Okay. Let's go back. A couple super chats real quick. I want to make sure I don't miss any of these. And then we'll jump back to the phones. Okay, guys? Whoa. I keep missing it. There. Trent Non-Pereal. What's up, brother? Thank you for the super chases. Teddy Atlas picked Crawford. Bud shoulder injury. Oh, Teddy Atlas picked Crawford too. Oh my God, guys. I'm starting to really feel nervous about this. Oh my God. Max Kellerman and Teddy Atlas picked Bud Crawford. I'm screwed. Canelo's going to win by knockout. Well, so I gotta be consistent. I gotta be a grown man here and stick with my pick. And I'm going to do that. Deed, thank you so much for the super chase. Says, I think people are heavily underestimating Canelo. Brother, you might be right. Maybe myself included. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into Canelo's recent performances and forgetting that, he can win this fight by decision. He can outbox Crawford. Maybe I'm overrating Crawford. Crawford destroyed Spence and proved that he's a class above Spence, but I always felt Errol Spence was overrated. His last fight against Madrimov, he didn't look all that good. He won it, but he didn't look great. He didn't look any better against Madrimov than Canelo did against his recent opponents. He might have looked worse, honestly, than Canelo has against recent opponents. So you may be 100% right, bro. I'm just trying to be a man and stick to my pick, even though I'm starting to really feel nervous because, damn, Teddy Atlas too. I like Teddy, but dude, he's a curse, just like Max. Oh God. Oh boy. Well, we'll see what happens. Okay, let's jump to some phone calls. Guys, I'll take a few phone calls. I'm not gonna be able to get to all these because I've been running my mouth here for an hour and 20 minutes. So we'll take a few quick calls and then we're gonna wrap up the show. Okay. Let's jump to Nacho. He's been holding on here for over 20 minutes. Nacho, how you doing, my man?
All right, Mike. Hope you and your family are doing well. Been a while since the last time I talked to you.
Yeah.
Just really quick, as far as the main event this Saturday, I'm not overly excited. The only thing I am is intrigued because the intriguing part of it is, can a guy who was at 147 pounds 2 years ago pack on 21 pounds and come in and upset the best fighter in the division, coming off a year layoff and no tune-up in between? That's the intriguing part of the fight. But in my opinion, I still think that all of the advantages are tilted in Canelo's favor. I like Bud a lot. I think he's been a hell of a fighter for a very long time. But I just think that 38 years old, a year layoff, adding on more weight, especially coming off that very, I hate to say it, but it was a very average performance against Madrimov. It's not exactly convincing me that him adding on more weight all of a sudden is going to make him a world beater. So I have Canelo winning the fight, kind of in the same boat as you. I think it goes the distance, but I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo stops him late either. I'm more excited about the co-main, which is Lester Martinez and Christian and Billy. I know a lot of people are picking Lester Martinez because the guy's kind of like the dark horse in the division that nobody's talking about. I just think in Billy, I like his style, and I'm curious to see what kind of a chin Lester Martinez has, because so far he hasn't been tested, and I think in Billy has. And Billy went to war with Carlos Gongora a couple of years ago, and he passed that test with flying colors. And Lester Martinez, as good as he's been, I don't think he's fought a guy on in Billy's level. So I think I'm going to go with Billy to win that fight. Late stoppage, I think, probably TKO like 11. And then the other fight, Walsh-Vargas, that one's really got my interest peaked because I've seen Callum Walsh. I've watched some of the UFC Fight Pass cards that he's been on, and I actually saw him fight once a few years ago at the Montebello, I think it's like the country club. They had a fight of his on there.
That's right.
And back then, even the kid, Loeffler had a card there. And even then, a few years ago, when I saw him in person, I was impressed. The kid is big. He's got skills. He's not like a big robotic stiff guy. He's pretty fluid. He can box. He can punch a little bit. The question is Vargas' son, has he been kind of all smoke and mirrors in building up his resume? Or is he going to prove that he's like his dad and he's got some kind of heart and he can actually fight? That's kind of the question that remains to be seen. But honestly, if I had to pick, Mike, I'm going with Walsh. I think Walsh has probably been the better developed prospect, and I think he's got more seasoning under him. So I think I'm going to go with him to win that fight by decision as well. Chuck Adams, I just think that Brandon Adams has kind of been too inactive, and Chuck has been active, and I think he's going to come in there wanting to get his lick back. So I think he wins that fight pretty easily. He probably ends up stopping Brandon Adams in like 9. And then the fight that we can't see because there's no TV provider between MJ and Inoue, which is really annoying. I think that fight's going to be the question is going to be, can MJ get past the first few rounds of that fight? If he can't push Inoue back, and actually make him respect him with his power, then I think Inoue ends up steamrolling him pretty quickly. But if Inoue can, if MJ can, hurt him a little bit and make him respect him and actually have to kind of take his time, then it might go a lot further. But I'm still going with Inoue. I think he's going to figure MJ out after about the first 5 or 6 rounds. And then I pick him to probably end up getting him out of there like by 10. So I don't know, Mike. What do you think?
Those are all good picks, man. I see people in the chat saying that Crawford has a hurt shoulder, and then I know Crawford's denying.
Yeah,
that.
somebody's
it's
been
a rumor.
Yeah, there's some people out there who are reporting that, but I heard that's a bunch of like
just fight week
social
bullshit.
media nonsense that like
yeah,
just people just kind of throwing shit out there. So I don't necessarily buy into that. Yeah, I just think people are bored and they're just kind of trying to throw shit out there to see if they can convince Canelo fans that like, oh look, he's hurt. You know, he's not going to be 100%. Yeah,
what do you think?
I'm not buying that. I think.
Let me ask you this, dude. Does this feel like a super fight to you, or does it fall just short of that for you?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I don't see this being a quote unquote super fight, because a super fight, it has the clamoring from fans, whether they're hardcores or casuals, to want to see the fight,
Yeah.
That's how it's always been throughout history, whether it was Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hitman Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Chavez, Meldrick Taylor, Chavez, Pernell Whitaker, et cetera, et cetera. It's always been fans, casual or hardcore, have always wanted to see the matchup. And this one, to be honest, I think the reception, for the most part, has been kind of lukewarm.
Yeah. Nobody
really asked for this fight, and everybody's just kind of rolling with it because it was made. Ideally, I think Virtuoso said a while ago when you talked to him, ideally, I think for Canelo, the super fight would have been David Benavidez, in my opinion. That was the super fight for him. But for whatever reason, whether you want to blame him or Benavidez, that fight never got made, and it's probably never going to get made. So, it's just one of those things where it didn't happen. But, yeah, this one I've just been kind of tepid about the whole thing. Like, I just think it's a very manufactured fight between a guy who legitimately is, I think he's a little bit bored in Canelo.
Yeah.
And Crawford, while he's hungry and he wants to shock the world and he wants to prove that he is an all-time great, I'm just not convinced, Mike, that after his performance against Madrimov, I just kind of think 54 might have been his ceiling. I'm not convinced that he's going to move up to 68 and all of a sudden just become an unbelievable fighter.
Those are all great points, man. I can't disagree with any of it.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's just the way I'm looking at Crawford. Like, Bud started at 35. He went up to 40. He went up to 47. And you could see all of it transition very smoothly to where he was still he was a damn good fighter. But he got to 54, and now it was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, we're not seeing what we saw in the smaller weight division. Now he's looking kind of human. So that's what makes me think, like, okay, at 54 you didn't look great, and now you're going to pack on more weight, and we're supposed to believe that you're just going to go in there and become an all-time great like that? Like, it's a little hard to swallow, Mike. That's all I'm saying. Like, I love Bud, but I'm just not convinced that adding on more weight was a good idea. I think this is a leap just a bit too far, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with any of that, bro. Yeah, good stuff. Now,
all right, Mike. Well, that was just my call. I don't want to take up too much time. I want the other guys get on. I'll just talk to you when you jump on next time.
All right, thanks a lot, brother. Enjoy the fights, man.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
All right, let's keep it rolling, guys. We're gonna grab a couple more. Hamed, I see you're back on the line. I'll try to get to you if I can, bro. There's other people who have been holding on. Let me jump to Thad. He's been holding on here for almost half an hour. Thad, what's up, man?
Yeah, Mike, thanks for getting me in.
Yeah.
Very good here. I got company and doing some grilling, but I wanted to at least get in to talk about some of these fights, especially the Inoue. If you're betting this weekend, the values with the Inoue and a decision, I do think that Akhmadaliev will be able to take his power. And don't forget, Inoue, this is like his, fifth weight class? Yeah. He's the type of guy that could grind it out on you. It might get a little dicey late. I do like Inoue by decision, plus 300. So bet 100, you win 300, profit. And if you like him by unanimous decision, you get plus 450. I think that's a really good value. So I don't know what you think of that.
I
you think you can go the distance?
I think if there's a fight where Inoue looks human and it goes the distance and everything, this is it. Do you know what the over-under is for this?
I haven't seen the over-under, but I know that it's favored to be a knockout for Inoue, like something fierce. He's like -2. The knockout, the fight to knock out 12 is like -250, I believe. Okay. And that's why Inoue by decision is so high at plus 300. So if you're betting the knockout, you got to put up over like about 250 just to win 100. But
yeah, I think
that's
decision,
real
like
risky.
you said. That's the value bet.
Yeah, that's why I really love that bet. I really loaded up on that one. That's my favorite bet of the weekend. As far as fights, I do like that fight too. It's going to be entertaining, but it's not going to be on TV. Yep. I think Akhmadaliev is a little underrated, and they go to distance, and it's going to be close. But I knew he would have knocked down 8-4. That's my take on that fight. But the Steven Nelson fight, actually, the odds are coming down. That people are taking the Cuban. I disagree. I think the sparring in Crawford's camp with Nelson and Lester Martinez, I think that they had such a great camp that those guys are going to be real tough to beat, even though mobility I do favor. But Steven Nelson at -275, I think, is a good bet. I think he's got one good fight left in him. On a Crawford undercard, that's his boy. He's going to take care of him. If it goes a decision, which I see it going, he's going to win a decision. And you're going to get plus money with Nelson by decision. And as far as the other fights, Boachuk, he should get revenge. He had him beat that first fight. He got clipped. Very inexperienced, kind of like Justice Hooney. Wow, versus Fabio Wardley. Boy, oh boy. Inexperience, it means so much, Mike. I mean, when you don't have those rounds logged and you get caught like that late, man, you learn from it. So I like Boachuk to get a stoppage around 6. And he's only a -450 favorite, so he's not like overwhelming. None of these fights are over -500. I think none of these fights. So they're all competitive. And that's a great thing Turkey has done with this undercard. These are all live underdogs. So kudos to him. I know his relationship with Crawford's a little weird, but other than that, I think, he made a really good fight card for us. The heavyweight fight, the Ditchko fight.
Yeah, what do you think about the heavyweight fight?
I think it goes to decision, and I actually like the American, believe it or not. I think he's shown me something against Joshua. He really hung in tough with him, and he fought Dylan White tough. And the competition's pretty tough over in Europe, but he's done himself, quite well. I think it goes decision either way, and I think he's probably going to get the decision. So those are the ones that stick out to me. But if you're looking at Canelo and Crawford, I just think Canelo's always been the more skilled fighter overall. I just think Canelo's been a better fighter than Crawford. I always had Crawford a little overrated. When Crawford himself admitted his best win was Ricky Burns, I mean, you really got to take that in consideration when the guy admits it was Ricky Burns. I personally think the Madrimov victory was his best win, and he barely skirted by. I had that fight Madrimov by a round or two at the end of 10, and then Crawford took the last 2 rounds, so however you want to score it. But I gave Crawford credit for that win, because I know Madrimov's a good fighter, and Madrimov lost to Ortiz, another snack fighter. Let's not discount the fact that snack is involved here. That's Balco, okay? That's snack, Crawford, Virgil Ortiz, Boots Ennis. All these guys are snack fighters. Bam Rodriguez, snack fighter. They're all winning. Shakur Stevenson, snack fighter. Clarissa Shields, snack fighter. Haney, snack fighter, even though he's terrible in my opinion. But these guys are winning consistently. So you have to factor that in, and I think the odds at Canelo -160 on the odds right now, and they've come down because Canelo opened up at -235. which was low. I thought he was a bigger favorite than that, which scared me. I'm like, well, something's weird about this fight. It doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. So they know something. Vegas isn't stupid, even though Vegas is losing money like crazy. The tourism's terrible there now. They actually have kiosks, Mike. They don't have live dealers as much for the table games. They switched to kiosks
Vegas
to
sucks,
save
man.
money because they don't have the tourism.
Vegas
Yeah.
sucks.
The strip is terrible now. It used to be great. 25 years ago, I used to enjoy it. Mandalay Bay, Bellagio, like when the old school places opened up, that was the best Vegas has ever been. Now it's like watered down. The best places and the best action is now over in Summerlin, off the strip. The strip is just like very, very, it's like Spirit Airlines, Mike. Okay. If you want to look at it like that, it's like a discounted Disneyland. And I don't think people really appreciate that anymore. It used to be a class joint, with the pool parties and everything. Now it's out of control. People aren't getting their money's worth. They're trying to rip you off. It's almost like the airlines where Pan Am, you used to fly Pan Am and they give you they treat you like first class in coach. It's not the case in Vegas anymore. They don't have any respect for the people. And that's why you're not getting a lot of fanfare here for this fight. There's no buzz. The city's dead. It might pick up for this weekend, but not like it's supposed to be.
Last couple of times I went to Vegas, it was depressing. It felt dead. It felt destitute. There were more homeless people and more like thug wannabe motherfuckers walking on the street and shit. And more drug dealers and prostitutes out walking the street. And I'm just like, man, what is, I mean, Vegas is Vegas, but like, it was just a different city. I have zero interest of ever going.
They're underground now.
Yeah.
The homeless, they're living underground. God love them, but I mean, it's different now. It's just, like I said, it's like Spirit Airlines. Hey, it's cheap. You ride it, but you're not going to get any favors done for you. That's Vegas now. They want you there. Take your money and get the fuck out. That's basically their motto.
I was going to say,
you know what I'm saying?
I have a friend who went there recently for like some company thing or whatever. But he said that he got room service. I won't say which hotel, but remember when you get room service and they'd wheel it into your room and they'd open up the thing and they'd show you, they present the food and like pour your orange juice. He said it was some dude at the door, knocked on the door. He opens it up and this guy goes, "Here's your dinner." And it was in a bag, in a white paper bag.
Oh, no.
And he held out his hand for a tip.
No.
He gave him a white bag and then held out his hand for a tip. And I'm like, oh my, and this is like a top hotel. I won't say which one, but it's like a top hotel, MGM owned. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm going to try to get like one more caller if I can, Thad, but
sure thing, Mike. Yeah.
Thanks
all
a lot,
right,
man.
Let's see what happens this weekend. All right, man. My pick is Canelo. So have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Let's, Jack with the super chat. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it, man. I'm going to grab your call here. Hamed, I'm going to try to get you if Jack is quick. We'll see. I'm going to try to get you guys both in. Jack, what's up, man?
Michael Montero, my guy. It has been probably like a year since I've been on here. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. Yeah, it's been a while, Jack. How are you doing?
I've been busy. Just a lot of boxing stuff, a lot of other stuff. But I assume you're busier than me with the kids.
Oh yeah,
and I see they're doing good. You got two little cuties on your hands.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, man. It's crazy, but it's very rewarding. It's turning into an amazing chapter of my life that I'm really, really enjoying more and more every day. So
I'm glad to hear that, man. Well, I know you got one more caller. I know you've been on for a while. I haven't seen your live, but if I know correctly, if I know you, I'm assuming you're going to go with Terence Crawford in a close decision. Am I right? Is that what you're going to pick?
Spot on, baby. Yeah, yep. That's been my pick all along. So, yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my prediction. I don't know about the undercards. I really haven't been super in tune with boxing, but my Crawford Canelo prediction is I think it's going to be a boring fight, and I think Terence Crawford is going to win a fight, maybe 8-4, and he's going to win a majority decision on the card. So majority decision win for Terence Crawford, and he's going to win like 8-4. He's going to win a clear but competitive fight. Like it's a little close, a little competitive, but you know who wins the fight. People got to understand that Madrimov is a great fighter. the Virgil Ortiz fight was close, even though Virgil's a dog. That's a whole other story. But look, Terence Crawford, if this was the Canelo that was from 2019, 2018-ish, I would pick Canelo to stop Crawford.
Absolutely.
But you got to look at the fine print, my guy. Look at the last 2021. That's when he got his last knockout. I just think Canelo is so washed. He's literally 300 years old in terms of boxing. In terms of boxing years, he's been fighting since he was 15 years old. He literally fought Mayweather at my age. I'm 23. Canelo fought Mayweather at 23. And he's been in this game for 20 years doing press conferences, going to fights, going to weigh-ins. He's been doing all these things. He's so old in terms of boxing years. So that's why I'm picking Terence Crawford, because Canelo is so old now in terms of boxing years. And I just think the style, I think he's going to show up on the night. I think it'll be close. I think it's going to be boring. I want it to be entertaining. But who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo pulls it off, but I'm going with Terence Crawford in a boring but clear, competitive fight.
That's pretty much the way I see it, Jack. I see it just like you. I mean, nothing would surprise me, but for everything you just said, I just think Canelo is just not the guy. You mentioned like 2018, 2019. I think the first fight with Golovkin was 2017. I think the rematch was 2018. I think he beat Jacobs in 2019. That was one of his best wins. That was prime Canelo. Dude, that first Golovkin fight was 8 years ago, guys. It was 8 years ago.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm with you, man. That's how I see it too. But, nothing would shock me. But I'm going with Crawford by a close decision, just like you.
Interesting, man. Interesting. All right, I'm going to hop off with you, get to the last caller. It was great to talk to you, bro. And, you take care.
You too, brother. It was great hearing from you, Jack. Have a good one, brother.
Yes, sir. Much love. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to get one more call. We're going to get Hamed. He's been hanging on forever. Hamed, you're the last caller, brother. So bring it home.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike, for getting me on. Look, I don't even think we need to go back 3 years. If you go back to the Charlo fight, I think Canelo would have been a heavy favorite, and I don't think many people wanted to see this fight. My thing with this is a lot of people keep talking about the Madrimov fight, but I think Canelo is the favorite, but the Madrimov fight, I wouldn't draw too much into it, because if you watch Madrimov fight and Canelo fight, to me, they do nothing similar. Like, Madrimov is a very good amateur. Have you seen the footage of Madrimov and Iglesias fighting as amateurs? It's without head guards, but it's probably like 2019. And Madrimov was putting hands on that guy. That guy essentially may be the best super middleweight at the moment outside Canelo. Maybe you could argue Mabili or Martinez or one of that, but there's a valid case is between Iglesias and maybe Pacheco. You could even argue along there. But to me, Madrimov was a better opponent than William Skull. And if this fight was 2 years ago, I would have heavily favored Canelo. To me, this fight comes down to a couple of things. How much has Canelo's legs lost a step? Because there's one thing, people keep talking about the weight, but the first thing you lose when you age is your legs. Because I was at Triple G and the Kell Brook fight, and that's what I instantly witnessed, like, live. I was even saying to my friend, like, Golovkin's lost a step. He's hit a wall. Like, I think he's not going to get any better from this. And another thing is, I know you can't put muscle on chin, but just from the limited sparring I've done, if you do put what I've seen as well, if you put muscle on your legs and in the right areas, you may be not able to take like as big a shot as someone who's got a better chin. But do you think this is the right way to put it? When you get hurt, the first thing that goes is your legs.
I think it's different for every person, every fighter, it reacts differently, but I see what you're saying. And I tend to agree. I mean, when you get hit with a really good shot, you feel it in your legs. And that's why if you're in really good shape, you're able to recover faster if you're in shape. That's the part about conditioning. Your body responds, and that jolt you feel, that little jolt, you respond quicker to it. But more mass means you can absorb more punishment. So generally speaking, a heavier guy can take a heavier punch, but you may give up some conditioning to become heavier. So that's my question for Bud. I hope he doesn't come in too big. I think he's got to stay on the outside, and he's got to move. He's got to have distance in this fight. If Canelo gets close, I think that favors Canelo greatly. Working
I don't think he can move too much.
Yeah.
I understand what you say, but I don't think he can move too much. I think he has to. Bivol said he has to stand his ground, and he can't fight scared. Like, that's what I think he needs to do. What he did with Madrimov and Postol, but on paper you'd have to favor Canelo. And I think if Canelo doesn't do anything in the first 6 rounds, or knock him down, or even knock him out, I think Crawford's got the ability to win. The only problem is, can he do it for 12 rounds? Because, like you said, there's a weight factor, there's inactivity, there's size, and even if he somehow outboxes him, I don't know if they're gonna give him the decision. I think he's gonna have to win at least 9 rounds, maybe 10. Like, he's gonna have to do what Usyk did against AJ in the first fight, and even then, I don't know, they could score a draw. To me, I know Turkey's in Crawford's corner, but to me, it seems like they need Canelo to win, because if Canelo wins, or even if it's a draw, that sets up a rematch. If Crawford wins, I don't know where they go, because if Canelo loses, I think Crawford, if he takes the win, he probably retires. And then I don't know what they do with Canelo, unless I heard there is a one-way rematch clause, unless there's something that could be done with that. But apart from that, I think Crawford's going to have to put in the performance of his life and try and do something in the second half. To me, in the first half, he's going to have to box like he did against Postol. Like, would you agree that's the right game plan? Because even though Canelo's throwing single shots, Crawford is not a defensive, like a genius. He gets hit a lot. And if he's getting hit as much as he did against Madrimov, I think he could get knocked out.
Yeah, I think Crawford has to keep this on the outside at the mid-range. He has to move. He's going to have to just keep his distance and try to pot shot, counter punch. He does have more length, and he does sharpshoot from the outside, so we can do all that. He's going to have to give angles. Canelo's going to come in with those looping kind of punches. He's going to try to pressure and get Bud on the ropes, and Bud can't be stuck there on the ropes and just hang out like Bivol did. He's not going to be able to do what Bivol did. He's got to move. I agree with you on all that, Hamed. There's questions for both fighters.
Yeah. Definitely. That's what makes it intriguing. I was listening to Steve Kibb and Mario Lopez, and I even Dougie Fisher a couple of weeks ago. Do you think the William Skull fight is what changed people's mind? Because I was saying it before the fight. To me, it was the Belanga and Munguia fights that I thought this is more competitive than I initially thought.
I saw it in the Bivol fight. I saw I think the last ounce of Canelo's prime got beat out of him by Bivol. I've been saying that ever since. And his fights against Ryder, against Golovkin. Well, Golovkin, again, Golovkin's a special fighter, even at the stage Golovkin was at. But like Charlo, I really think he stops those guys in his prime. And the fact that he won those fights clearly, I'm not trying to say like they were close fights, but he just doesn't look like the explosive kind of guy that we once saw. And, he's fought some decent guys, but he hasn't fought anyone at a pound for pound level like Crawford since he fought Bivol. I understand Bivol's a lot bigger, stronger, all that stuff. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Crawford gets in there and looks faster, looks sharper, is more accurate with his punching, straighter punches, better footwork, moves his feet and hands better, all of that. It wouldn't surprise me. That's what I'm expecting. Nothing will surprise me, but
Can I piggyback? Can I just piggyback? Do you think the reason he deserves some criticism for those fights, even though those guys were bigger, they were essentially there to get knocked out, like Munguia, Ryder, and Canelo? I know he dropped all of them outside William Skull. He didn't really come close to knocking any of them out. That's
what I'm saying, Hamed. And so, like, I know Crawford didn't look good against Madrimov. I get it. He didn't. But Madrimov is so much better than the guys Canelo's been fighting recently. That one fight was a tougher fight than Canelo's had in years. So, to me, neither one of these guys is in their absolute prime, but I do think Crawford is closer to his. I wonder if, as we get into the late rounds, to your point, if inactivity will matter and things like that, and Crawford gets lazy. I do know Crawford can be lured into like exchanges, and his ego gets involved. And if Canelo can land something, Crawford might exchange with him and try to get nasty in there. That favors Canelo. That's how Canelo can knock him out. If Crawford keeps it technical and boring, for lack of a better term, I really think he can pull off this fight. I have a feeling about it. And again, maybe I'll look stupid come Sunday, but that's just my feel on it.
Yeah. Could I just see, before I go, do you think he made the mistake then not having a fight? Because he did have the fight with David Avanesian.
Yes.
He had the fight with David Avanesian before the Spence fight. With this fight, he's coming in a 13-month layoff. I don't know if that's going to preserve his body or work against him, because he's moving up 2 weight classes as well.
Yes, and that's the point. So there's two sides of it. Are you preserving yourself, or are you going to be dull? I tend to think at this age, Crawford knows how to fight, obviously, so he's not going to learn anything new in camp. But when you're also moving up in weight and you're inactive, that's a problem. I think that if Crawford loses this fight, it'll be due to his inactivity. I would feel way more comfortable with my pick if he had fought in May against maybe a middleweight, a lower top 10 rated 160 guy in preparation for this, or maybe a catchweight at super middleweight or something. I'd feel better about it. The fact that he hasn't fought, he's literally fought 12 rounds in 2 years, 12 rounds. That's it. So yes, he's preserved.
The only guy who's done that at that age is Hopkins when he moved up to beat Tava. Sorry to cut you off. Just see, I can't remember anyone else doing it close to 40, moving up 2 divisions. And Hopkins is the only one I can remember. So if he does it, I'll give him all the credit. But to me, it seems like it's a very risky move. It may be calculated. We'll find out. But I'm not sure if it's going to be a great fight, if I'm being honest. Like for it to be a great fight, I think Canelo needs to try and knock him out early on. But I don't know if Canelo will take that gamble as well, because that could backfire if he kind of gasses himself up by punching himself up.
I think both guys are going to start very slow and technical. I don't see anyone coming out going for a knockout early. I think both guys are preparing for a 12-round fight. So I think it's going to be fought at a slow technical pace. There might be little flurries here and there, but I expect very low punch output, a lot of feinting, a lot of positioning and movement. It's going to have fans a little upset, but that's what I see. But Hamed, I should jump, man.
Right.
We're going on 2 hours.
All right, good talking to you. I'll catch you soon. Okay.
Thank you, Hamed. All right, brother.
All right, take it.
You too. Enjoy the fights. All right, guys. Thank you for everyone for jumping on and joining the chat. Enjoy the fights this weekend, guys. Like I said, I hope that it provides the escape and just a little bit of entertainment and fun that we all could kind of use right now, right? So take care of yourselves, guys, and we'll do it again real soon. All right? I'll see you at the fights. Peace.